Today we have Courtney here with us, and the first time I met Courtney was at my 200-hour teacher training because she is the leader of the 200-hour teacher training that I attended, and she has such a calming presence about her, just like kind of she floats in like on a cloud. And she was so vulnerable with our class and shared so many personal experiences, just really gracious with her teaching. And then she wrote a book for teachers and students in 200-hour teacher training, which I read after graduating. And it was just as vulnerable and personal, and such a great tool for someone who's starting out to teach. So I feel so lucky to have her here today and tell us all about her amazing background and how yoga has renewed her hope. Thank you, Courtney, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. So a little bit about me. My name is Courtney Robinson, and my book is under Butler, so I often say Courtney Butler-Robinson. I got remarried 3 years ago. On a personal level, I'll be 50 in a couple of months, and I have 6 kids. So I had 3. I adopted an older child when I was in my late 30s. So 4, and then I got married and had 2 more children through marriage and 3 grandchildren through marriage. So we have a big full family, and we live on a farm or a ranch with 13 animals who I am hoping and praying don't bark right now because they won't go outside in the rain. A little bit about my background. As far as my yoga background goes, it's hard to keep it brief, and I'm going to try. But at a very young age, my parents divorced when I was 1. My mom got remarried, and my life was really pretty good and happy in the 70s. And my mom married my stepdad, who I was very close to, and he was very much a primary parent for me. And he died. He got in an accident when I was 7, and he died. And I moved in with my grandparents, who I had lived with off and on, because my mom had been a single mother working, multiple jobs. And I watched a lot of PBS growing up. And that, back in the 70s, we had 4 channels. And so I was pretty much only allowed to watch PBS. And Lilias Phelan, who is known as the I think they call her the Grand Lady of Yoga, but she's in her 80s, I believe now, maybe getting closer to 90. And she had a yoga program on, and that is how I started with asana. Later on, I had a hippie aunt who would introduce me to meditation. And then even a little bit later than that, they didn't call it yoga because it was the 80s and everyone was afraid of yoga. But it was more of a stretch class, but it was definitely a yoga class. And it was only for seniors, and I was 15, and I had to get permission to be in the class. So I was in there with a bunch of people over 65. Yeah, it's funny. At a few years after that, I got a job working for a company called Aveda Hair Care, which a lot of people are familiar with. And back then, it was rooted in Ayurveda, so the Indian science of health and longevity. And part of our training was asana practice, meditation, the use of herbs and things like that, and the eating and everything that went along with it. They didn't teach us about the 8 limbs, but it was definitely part of the overall experience. And so I learned, and that's when it all came together for me. So I was 18, and I've been practicing ever since. Around the age of 30, after I had been a teacher, I got my degree in early childhood, I decided that I wanted to teach yoga after a 16-month bout of Epstein-Barr. I had 3 children under the age of, oh goodness, let's see. They were under the age of 4. And so 3 babies in 4 years. My body was depleted. I caught Epstein-Barr while I was teaching. I had to be seen in Levi Hospital. And the only thing I could do was 15 minutes of asana practice 3 times a week. So that I felt was a very healing experience for me. what I didn't mention is early on, I had really severe OCD growing up. It manifested in everything. And the meditation and the asana was a big part of helping me with obsessive compulsive disorder and anxiety. Today, I ended up getting all the training, the 200, the 500. So I have all the things, all the certifications you can have. I'm a registered yoga teacher with Yoga Alliance with all of them. I've got prenatal, I've got yoga for healthy aging, all the stuff. And then I became a certified yoga therapist in, I don't even know how long it's been. It's maybe 2016, I think. I grandfathered in. And so I don't know that anybody cares about how that process works, but I had been teaching and I had done a ton of training. Um, and a lot of the teachers I trained to were yoga therapy schools. So yoga for healthy aging was my big thing that I was really into. I originally wanted to be, I don't know if I'll say it right, gerontologist. I wanted to be a doctor for the elderly. And I actually went to school, started out to be a physical therapist. Life intervened, children, it just wasn't possible. But this was a way for me to give back. And so now I've been with the Dean Ornish Program for 4 years as a yoga therapist. My title is a stress management specialist, and it's definitely meditation focused. And so that's what I do 5 days a week now. I don't do private practice anymore. I don't teach public classes. I have written 2 books now. I mainly do speaking engagements like this and go to work 5 days a week and then focus on the rest of my life, if you will. So that is, I guess, my career in a nutshell. So would you like me to go ahead and talk about hope, or you can tell
I
me?
would. Thank you so much for sharing your background. It's such an extensive background, and I think a lot of the listeners will really enjoy that. Thank you. And yes, please share with us how yoga has renewed, restored hope in your life. I can't wait to hear, because it's been such a big part of your whole life.
It has been a big part of my whole life. And, for me, I feel like it's not like there's not a one size fits all. It has met me where I am throughout my whole life. So when I was young and my stepfather had passed away, my mother went through a lot of hard times. I won't go into that because it's personal and she's still around. I don't want to do anything to cause problems, but it was I did not have a good childhood. And movement always was essential for me for controlling my nervous system. I know now, I didn't have words for it then. So I did dance. I wasn't good at it, but asana practice and exercise I was always into that. I mean, it was always something that non-competitive forms of movement always helped me calm down. And then when I got to be 13 and that aunt of mine took me to, I don't know who all would experience, the listeners have, but my aunt introduced me to Alateen. So I've been in a 12-step program since I was 13, off and on. And so that's support for people who have families or loved ones or friends that have problems with addiction. And through that, I learned meditation. Now, that is something I would say I've leaned heavy to my whole life, my whole adult life and teenage years. I really got into meditation early. It's just been something that I've consistently done. But I would say I live my life in a yogic way. I don't see yoga so much as asana practice. So the tools in my toolbox are more looking at, so the 8 limbs of yoga, the yamas and niyamas, the ethical and moral principles that are internal, external. I use those every day to get through life. Also the kleshas are the 5 reasons of suffering. One is attachment. Like I am constantly having to pull back and look at my attachment to things. So, I could list all the grief and pain that I've gone through, but one thing, I don't know that it's necessary other than to say, I look at life like if thousands of years ago, these teachers in the Indus Valley developed this program, if you will, or this study, this philosophy, to help people not have suffering. Then that human connection of suffering is universal, right? We all have it. We all have love. We all have suffering. We all are happy. We all get angry. It's what we do with that that matters. And so it's not denying it. It's not saying, oh, well, I have this practice. I go and do these 10 sun salutations and I'm happy again. It is more of a lifestyle. So asana is a way of moving that stuck energy, if you will, through your body. But the yamas, niyamas, and the kleshas, the things like the study of contentment, the study of being disciplined, learning to be, okay, I have this simple discipline. I eat oatmeal every day. I mean, sounds silly, but that's yoga.
Yeah.
Because I have the discipline of eating oatmeal every day for my health. And that leads me to be more peaceful and healthy and not have health struggles, or help with my health struggles. So for me, it's a daily tool to help me deal with whatever is going on in my life, because stress, grief, pain, those are things you can't, some of that is outside of your control. But your tools are inside if you learn them. And so that is how, I would say, through my stepfather's death, I had a stillborn child when I was 21, right before my 21st birthday. I was in 2 bad marriages. I was attracted to addicts. I have 4 kids that are grown, 6 with my husband. There's always stress there, worrying about them. And so I just use my tools every day of, one of my favorite tools and one of my favorite sayings right now is change your perception, change your reality. I have to constantly flip the switch, right? Okay, I'm starting to obsess and worry about, here's these storms. What if a tree falls, on my son's house? I mean, it's silly, it's ridiculous, but, I have to change and flip the script. Everything's okay right now. You're okay, Courtney. Your son's okay. So I hope that's what you want and that's helpful.
It was so helpful. And it's so interesting how everyone's talked about something different. And I'm so grateful that you talked about yoga as a lifestyle and you talked about the other limbs rather than just the postures and the poses, because I think that's such a big piece that people don't know in the Western culture about yoga yet. And that is, to me, the biggest blessing of yoga is the other parts of the yamas, the niyamas, and the kleshas and all that stuff. So thank you so much for your time and your energy and for being here today and sharing your expertise with us. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I know the listeners are going to as well.
Oh, well, thank you. You know how much I think of you and your family. And so I just appreciate you asking me to be here. And it's always fun to see you. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Have a good day and stay safe in the storms.
Yes, you too.
Thanks.
Bye.